del primer Congreso Internacional.
So we're going to proceed to the official closure of the first International Congress of La Desbandá, a century of anti-fascist struggles, popular anti-fascist struggles. So please take your seats. We're going to resume.
Falta aquí la presencia de Manuel Ruiz.
Where is Manuel Ruiz? He should be with us.
Él no sabía que tenía que... No sé, sí. Bueno, todo llega a su fin y aquí damos por concluido...
So we're coming to the end, and this is the closure of the first International Congress of La Desbandá in 2022. We might be considering a second edition. We consider this has been a great success, particularly because of your participation and presence here. And we think it's been great to establish this communication channel, to have been able to bring to the table, to the discussion, so many topics of concern that make us understand and confirm that the work is not over. So here, this is the final table. Luis Naranjo, as the president of the scientific committee, is with us with the conclusions and the assessment carried out by the working group. Can you hear me?
Este breve documento que voy a leer.
So I'm going to read this document with the contributions by the working group on the assessment and the proposals for the future of the Congress, and also some contributions that have been sent to us online from people who couldn't be present in the working group, but that are also very important. At a moment as this, with the re-emergence of anti-democratic forces, the Association La Desbandá believes it very important to highlight what La Desbandá was as a prologue of what Nazism would do briefly after that. So after the meeting in Vicar, Almeria in November 2020, we submitted this idea of the first International Congress of La Desbandá, a century of popular anti-fascist struggles. With the following idea, we acknowledge that over 80 years after the La Desbandá, little is known about the war crimes committed against the civil population on the road to Almeria. This is why we demand actions will be taken to achieve justice and reparation to the victims. After the pandemic, we are holding this Congress on the 20th, 29th, and 30th of October 2020, this International Congress. The Socio-Cultural Association La Desbandá created an organizing committee that was in charge of organizing all the media, communication, and material infrastructure that was necessary to host the participants and speakers. It was also in charge of communicating and disseminating the organization of the Congress at the Andalusian, national, and in European level. The scientific committee was composed of women and men that had both the scientific skills and also a great commitment with historical and democratic memory. They have in charge of organizing the scientific content. So the selection of topics to be presented and discussed during the roundtables and panels as well as presentations of the Congress. They were also the ones who prepared a list of participants and the speakers. The Congress wanted to have a scientific content and also have a dissemination role. So the presentations, communications, and roundtables should help to advance, to have a better knowledge of the historical event of the greatest flight of civil population in Malaga until the massive exodus at the end of the war in 1939. Also, we want the Congress to promote socialization and also dissemination of the truthful memory of what this crime against humanity was, as a precedent of what would later on happen in the Nazi period. This has been a form of resistance against the denial and revisionist efforts that are part of the cultural fight that the right and the far right are launching in Spain and Europe. That's the way this Congress should be interpreted, as a collective act of resistance. The anti-fascist transnational social and gender dimension, as well as the link to the present, offer a cross-cutting approach to all the communication spaces of the Congress. And, well, this was expressed by the goals of the Congress, which are the following: to disseminate the war crimes and the crimes against humanity that were carried out against the civil population by the Franco forces and their foreign allies. And this means that La Desbandá was a great symbol of anti-Francoism in Spain. Also, to be able to prepare documents for teaching on the basis of the scientific knowledge of La Desbandá. We also want to highlight the role of women in the flight, in the protection of victims, and the placement of refugees, the support given during the context of this flight from Malaga to Almería. This has been very well reflected during the Congress. We also want to reinforce the transnational and European dimension. And finally, create the relations between the historical dynamics in the 20th century and the armed conflicts today. These goals have been embodied during two opening presentations by Mirta Núñez and by Paul Perston, who defined the historiographic context of the whole of the Congress. Other researchers like Encarnación Barranquero and Olga Rodríguez, as well as Andrés Fernández, offered complementary information about La Desbandá as a relevant and complex historical fact. Several roundtables have incorporated several experts in the memory movement and from the associations of victims, as well as political representatives, in order to discuss the legal framework on memory in Andalusia and Spain. This has been also the opportunity to add the social, gender, educational, legal, transnational, and human rights perspectives. All this was essential for the Congress to achieve the purposes that were defined for it. So we now, at the end of this agenda, on the 30th of June, And we will have an assembly session where the participants, the associations, memory associations from the European scene have contributed to ideas about how to fight against fascism in the future in Europe. Some of the needs that have been identified: the need to organize similar events in the future so that we can perpetuate the spirit of this Congress in order to share the knowledge and analysis from the European perspective. So we have discussed the meeting of schools or people involved in education so that they can prepare and share materials in relation to the memory and how to work on it in schools. Secondly, we want to promote the connection of the big memory centers in Europe that have been building a memory of violence and fascist militarism in order to guarantee the non-recurrence. Non-recurrence is such an important concept. And in this sense, we want to highlight networking with countries such as Portugal, France, Germany and Italy, among others. Thirdly, we want to launch the connection of trails, memory trails of transnational character, and we are going to demand that the European Union will support this network of trails of the anti-fascist memory. Also, we want to disseminate and give information about to inform about the occupation of Malaga by the rebel troops and also the flight of the civil population, and how this should become a symbol of the brutality of anti-fascists and also a symbol of the atrocities that were carried out by Nazism later on. We want to, this is also a demand. We want to highlight education, and we should dedicate more time in the different events, presentations, roundtables and so on in the future events and congresses that might be organized. As a global assessment of this first Congress, we can say that the goals that were defined have been achieved with a great success. We have a great number of participants and with the representation of a majority of the memory movement of Andalusia and also members of the memory movements of other regions in Spain and also other countries in Europe. A great number of teachers and researchers have participated also, and this is essential in order to reinforce the activities that are necessary in schools in order to incorporate memory there. Also, we must highlight the presence of young people in this Congress, which is absolutely necessary.
No solo de los voluntarios.
And of course, not only the volunteers, 26 volunteers, but also other young people that have joined us and that have been participating very actively in the conclusions. We have received several contributions saying that it has been a success, and this is not easy. Well, the fact that we have discussed the role of women in anti-fascist resistance, but also in the continuity and dissemination of the memory of the crimes carried out by the dictatorship. This has been successfully achieved, and this is a new field of research and dissemination that needs to be developed. The role of women as resistance, members of the resistance, but also as the people who convey that memory. So for the future congresses, we can highlight the international dimension of the Congress, not only opening ourselves up to other European countries, but also in connection to Latin American countries from which there's so much to learn from and who are sometimes considered in a condescending way because they have also suffered institutional violence, dictatorship, and repression. And well, we also have to need a greater connection with the university, the world of university. So of course we need also the university to be open to us, and we can need help in that. Also the actions with the young people, also in relation to interdisciplinary or academic projects. And also we need to connect with the professors in the field of social sciences, or perhaps carry out other actions and activities so that we can continue researching La Desbandá and many other similar events and facts in the history of Spain. The assessment has been very positive for the Congress. There have been ideas about, well, also the assessment for the speakers' contributions has been very positive, and therefore the communication content, the content in terms of communications has been very good. There should be more space for horizontal communication in future editions, more time to discuss among ourselves, more time, more for breaks, so that we can discuss in between the different round tables, in the time between round tables in general, more informal communication spaces. And that is all. Thank you very much.
Bien, en el marco de este primer congreso hemos podido.
So for this first edition of the Congress, we've had the opportunity to create new links and also to promote the first anti-fascist meeting. And Antonio is going to share with you the document, the declaration we've made. Sorry, Manuel Ruiz. Thank you very much, Lola. My colleagues have the document in big font, and I think my worst enemy has printed this document for me because I can't see anything. I can't read anything. As you all know, this morning we held a meeting for the creation of a European anti-fascist movement. It has been very interesting. I'm going to probably repeat what I said before, but anyways, during the whole conference, during this whole Congress, we've been looking back to the past, but we have to look to the future as well. And we are seeing how all around Europe there is a rise of the fascism, even in governments, and here in Spain, with many regions where the fascists are gaining ground, also thanks to the press and the media, because they are getting a lot of space in the media. And this is terrible, because we are starting to see this as something normal. So you're probably going to hear twice this agreement. I'm going to read it again because this is the final agreement of the European Anti-Fascist Compromise, which is entitled Let's Build a Network of the European Anti-Fascist Movement. 100 years after the Black March on Rome, the resurgence of fascism and the extreme right in almost all European countries, their control of Hungary and Poland, the extremely dangerous infiltration of state powers and the economy in other countries such as Spain and Ukraine, the lack of effective measures taken by European states to stop and reverse this wave, all these reasons place us, the peoples of Europe, the democratic citizens, in the same solitude that we suffered from 1922 to 1939 in the anti-fascist struggle. Faced with this situation, we must once again face up to our historical responsibility, as the people in Spain did in those fateful years with the support of the greatest international solidarity movement of the 20th century, the International Brigade and the International Red Aid. It is for this reason that the undersigned organizations and individuals, participants in the European meeting against fascism and the far right, commit ourselves to constitute a European anti-fascist social network that promotes and articulates real convergences of a European anti-fascist social movement. The Greek experience shows, in the face of complicit indifference, that forceful social and institutional action is capable of stemming this tide, and that is what we are facing. We constitute a promoter commission in charge of the organization and convening of the 20th European meeting against fascism and the far right in 2023, where we will achieve a presence and exchange of experiences from all European countries and peoples and formally establish the European Anti-Fascist Social Network. This initial promotional committee may be expanded to later include 1 or 2 entities per country or people. The initial idea is the social preeminence of the network, with people, parties, and truly democratic institutions being able to participate as collaborators. The aim is to go beyond the memory and centrally anti-fascist participation and to articulate all kinds of social collectives. No social space can be indifferent to fascism. Either one is anti-fascist or one is a necessary accomplice to it. This is the last minute element, and is that we're going to take part in the Left, Green and Progressive Forces European Forum that held its 6th edition in Athens this year, and we're going to take part in this forum as the anti-fascist part. Thank you very much. Great. Rafa was taking the microphone because he's going to speak now. He's Rafa Morales. He's the president of our association, and he's also the coordinator of the working group of trials working group. Thank you very much, Lola, our first vice president. I'm going to make a quick review of our conclusions in this working group. I will start with the presentation, the introduction made by the comrades who work in the area of La Sauceda and the Memory Forum of El Campo de Gibraltar, which is an amazing job. I am really impressed. Their work is huge. I will just give you a hint of it. But they told us how it works. The website they are creating, this is going to be an open website, of course, and everyone could visit it and find insights and information on the mass grave map. And they include here graves from forced disparitions since 1936. They have shared their experience with us. They are now at a final stage. They have made some publications as well, and they work together with the regional government, but they have also their own research line. And in Andalusia, there are 795 mass graves of forced disappearances. So this association, this forum, they have estimates, of course, because you never get precise data. So they start making the research on the whole exhumation process, and you never get to know how many people are still in the mass graves. But their estimates are of around 45,500 people. Have already been, some of them have already been exhumated, and some of them, they still remain in the mass graves. So, but that's the figure for killed people during the war and during the first years of the Franco regime. So all those documents they are sharing with us, with many kinds of different documents, they allow them to make a study and make researches or make searches by gender, by date, by village. So this is a very complete work. They have 2,029 dignified mass graves, which means graves that have been exhumated and then later on with research about the people found in the graves, etc. And many of these graves are underneath other constructions like cemeteries or other kind of buildings. Any kind of buildings, mainly cemeteries, but well, these are mass graves that are almost impossible to recover or to research. And then there are 133 mass graves that are completely disappeared. These are the estimates from the forum. They keep working, of course. Their website is under construction, but it will be a very exhaustive website with a lot of information, and of course we will disseminate the launching of this website because everyone would be able to access all the information and to get to know in detail this amazing job they are carrying out. So next, I made a presentation of the network of trails, of memory trails of the Spanish state, launched 3 years ago. We had a website, and today already we have more than 80 memory trails on the Spanish territory. Everyone can go and walk these trails and get to know a little bit more about the history, not only about the war, but also about the stories of the anti-Franco fighters, all those who were hidden in the mountains. So we consider this is a very important part of our history, and we're trying to disseminate it. We're still working on the project, and we would like, of course, to include much more information in every trail. We have around 20-25 memory associations, which are the ones sharing a lot of information. We are just one association inside this memory trails network. And one of our goals as the network is to promote commemorations like we do in the Desbandá. As you know, every year at the beginning of February, we make this journey of the death road between Malaga and Almería. So we need the participation of the associations in order to promote these marches, not only in La Desbandá, but also in other trials. For instance, we've done it in the Battle of El Jarama. We participated in that march as association, and we have other different tributes that are made in the country in general, and so we have to disseminate all the information and, of course, all the history associated to every memory trial. And now, of course, we landed in our La Desbandá memory trail. I don't remember when exactly, but a couple of months ago, this trial was declared as a memory site by the parliament, by the Spanish parliament. And this has important implications because we've been talking with Fernando Martínez, Secretary of State, in charge of declaring this trial as a memory site, memory trial. And so we're going to keep on asking for this information center, especially dedicated to La Desbandá. Well, it means money. We need money to keep on advancing in our project. With the signaling, the necessary signaling of all the memory milestones. And as Gonzalo Acosta said, with the project that is going to be soon developed, the exhibition project for the memory trial of La Desbandá. There are 27 memory milestones. And the idea is to place information, to display the information, the documents, and everything regarding this episode through the whole road between Malaga and Almería, so that the general public can really know the truth about what happened in the very first days of February 1937 on that road. We have to keep on working because we have to do it throughout the whole trial. This is one of our main goals. This trial, either completely or in parts, in different legs, has to be walked by the students of the secondary schools so that they know what happened. And we also want these educational guides to be provided at every milestone of the way. This is our project, and after my discussions with the Secretary of State for Memory, I can say that he is committed to this project as well. He wants to develop the declaration of La Desbandá as a memory site, and this is going to bring more support from the government in order to dignify this trial. And this is our commitment. We know this is not going to happen in the short run, but we're going to keep working to do it, because this trial for us is our identity sign. This is our work and our memory. Thank you.
Finalmente, vamos a...
And finally, we're going to read the declaration of Mollina of this first international conference. It is my privilege to do it.
Bien. Declaración.
Final declaration, commitment of the first International Congress of La Desbandá in Mollina. The first International Congress of the Association of La Desbandá, meeting on 28th, 29th and 13th October at the Ceulag in Mollina, has approved the following. Final declaration. Considering, firstly, that through the various presentations and debates of notorious scientific quality, we have once again confirmed the historical importance of the massacre suffered by the Andalusian people in the forced flight of the majority of the population of Malaga by the so-called death road to Almeria, together with thousands of people from other parts of Andalusia, in the face of the attack of the capital of Malaga by fascist troops made up of Italian divisions sent by Mussolini, colonial troops from Franco's Moroccan army, and air forces sent by Hitler. Whereas, secondly, the genocidal fascist crime committed on the Malaga-Almeria road, which was a premeditated attack on the civilian population fleeing the war and which sought to cause as many victims as possible, was not an isolated event in the anti-fascist war waged by the Spanish Democratic Republic against the Spanish reactionary forces and the European fascist and Nazi states, but the whole of Spain, from north to south and from east to west, is full of bloody episodes of indiscriminate massacres of unarmed civilians, men and women, whose crime was to defend the nascent republican democracy against a form of Spanish-style fascism, which was supported by the fundamentalists, the Catholic clergy, and the powers of the large landowners, aristocrats that had always ruled Spain. The massacres and crimes to which the multitude of mass graves, some of which have already been opened and most of which are awaiting their opening, are permanent witnesses, are home to more than 100,000 people who were shot, including distinguished Andalusian personalities such as Blas Infante, or considered the father of the Andalusian homeland and the universal poet from Granada, Federico García Lorca. Considering, thirdly, that the crimes committed by fascism in Spain were not an isolated phenomenon either, but that the Second World War, which caused tens of millions of civilian victims in Europe, was an aggression by fascist forces and states against the peoples of Europe, where the victims were victims because of their democratic or left-wing political convictions, or because of their ethnic or social categorization, such as Jews, Gypsies, or homosexuals. Whereas, fourthly, we're going through a revival of fascist ideologies in Spain and all over Europe, and this is due to the insecurity and impoverishment of working class and popular strata condemned by neoliberal capitalist policies, and who are led to believe that the enemy is the immigrant, Arab, Muslim, or black working class, who are leaving their countries plagued by wars, plundering of multinationals, and the plundering of the black economy through the mainstream discourse monopolized by the media. Fifth, whereas the rise of fascism is also based on the lack of democratic historical memory, which gives rise to denial of the fascist crimes of the past, and in the specific case of Spain, the completely false account of what happened in the Republic, in the war and in the post-war period, has been taken for granted by a majority of the population who have not had access to an alternative, truthful and verifiable account of our historical process. Sixth, whereas the anti-fascist struggle is linked to democratic historical memory, but also to feminism, to women's equal rights, which were trampled under Franco's regime, and which, after their reconquest in the democratic process and the impetus of the feminist struggle, are once again being called into question and put on the agenda of the political projects of the Spanish right. Considering, seventhly, that the Andalusian Memory Law, as well as the recently passed National Democratic Memory Law, despite their shortcomings, represent progress, the fruit of the struggle of the memory movement, and should serve to advance in new achievements for the education of... Sorry, I lost the paper.
Siempre me tiene que pasar a mí, Rafa. Pues como este párrafo es muy importante, lo voy a volver a repetir. Considerando, séptimo, que la ley de la memoria de...
Considering, seventhly, that the Andalusian Memory Law, as well as the recently approved National Democratic Memory Law, despite their shortcomings, represent progress, the fruit of the struggle of the memory movement, and should serve to advance in new achievements for the education of new generations and in re-establishing the truth, justice, and reparation that is still pending from the past. On the basis of these considerations, we undertake to, first, to maintain and improve the activity of the integral march, of the comprehensive march of the Desbandá from Malaga to Almería, as well as the other activities that the Association of La Desbandá has been carrying out. Second, to work to increase the coordination of the Andalusian and national memory movement. Third, to work towards the coordination of a European memory and anti-fascist movement. Fourth, to defend and intensify gender equality policies in our structures, organizations, and activities. Fifth, to use and demand compliance with the laws of historical memory that have been approved in Andalusian and Spain, preventing them from remaining at the letter, also demanding that legislation be passed to classify the crime of the Malaga-Almería Road as a genocidal act and a crime against humanity. And sixth, we commit ourselves at the appropriate time to convene a second conference of La Desbandá, which will pursue a new advance in the state and European coordination of the memory and anti-fascist movement declaration adopted in Medina on the 30th of October 2022.
Vale, pero es que quería yo invitar una cosilla. Te paso ahora mismo el micrófono porque tú debes.
Yes, I will give you the floor because you are going the one who should conclude. But before that, I would like to ask Ángeles, the co-president of the Association La Desbandá, because I'd like her to be with us here for the closing of this Congress. Ángeles has been working very hard. It's not so visible what she's been doing, but she's been in charge of infrastructure, and also she's been doing so much for this project.
Te paso la palabra. Ponte allí, dime unas palabras y...
Hoy, bueno, yo no tenía intención de salir aquí, pero...
Well, I didn't intend to be here up on the table. Well, I've just loved what I've done, and yes, I'm tired, but I'm just so happy to see you smiling. Of course, there are moments of sadness, but you all seem happy. And for me, the most important thing is that you've enjoyed this, that you had a good time here. And of course, I've worked very hard. And I don't know, I even met all the cleaning ladies and everything. I've really enjoyed everything I've done. Thank you very much. I was just thinking that, well, I always say that I am a child of the transition, because when Franco died, I was sent home by my mom, and then that was the first time that I saw the the Catalonian flag, and I didn't even know that flag existed. So how long? I mean, it's the first time we've done a Congress with the Republican flag here, and that's wonderful. I would also like to thank the work done by the volunteers. They've helped us so much. They've helped me, but also everyone in the organization, and they've always been there. They've helped us also with the IT issues, although Antonio Bandera, who's over there, Antonio Barrera, he never says anything, but he's been helping a lot. We have Paco Pepe. He's there, he's working all the time. There's been an anecdote. Well, he saw some friends of his, and they said, well, we're waiting for Clara, because Clara did some wonderful lithographs, and well, he didn't know what we were talking about, that because he's been in this room for 3 days in a row. So, round of applause extra for him. And I'd like to thank all my comrades, because everyone has been working very hard. Carmen has joined us really she arrived not long ago, and she's going to stay now. We won't let her go. And I'd like to say that this association also requires members that get engaged, who work with us, not with money, because our fee is really low, but just talking to other people. And that's how we've managed to have delegations in Valencia, in Madrid, in Andalusia, in Alicante, in so many places. So, you know, we also need to become stronger, as Rafa says, and also know that without money, what we can do is limited. We need to start self-managing ourselves, because he's an anarchist, and he can explain about self-management. But in any case, yes, it's true that we need collaboration. An association needs members who will be engaged with us. And that's all.
Y ya las últimas palabras.
And now we would like to conclude this first International Congress of La Desbandá, 100 years, a century of popular anti-fascist struggles. So see you on the 2nd of February for the next March of La Desbandá in Malaga. I hope to see you then. Thank you to you all for your participation and for the success of this Congress.